r/ask Reddit. What knowledge might save your life one day? Don't ever stop performing CPR on a person until EMTs take their body away. CPR doesn't wake up a person. It's to force blood to their brain to prevent brain death so that the EMTs can revive that person. Edit. Thank you for the gold, kind strangers. And find a CPR buddy to switch with regularly. Even if they don't know CPR, coach them through it. But if at all possible, don't do it alone. Why? Because it is super taxing and your arms will get tired and hurt really fast. And as said, you can't stop. To add to this, you need to use a lot of force. You'll probably break their ribs. Don't stop. Living is more important than one or more broken ribs. Polar bears have insane ADHD. If one is chasing you, intermittently drop clothing items like a hat or gloves. It will stop to sniff them. Normal prey animals don't shed whole pieces of themselves. The bear will be perplexed. So on Reddit somewhere else. If it's brown, lie down. If it's black, fight back. Edited. Thanks you/Thorscope. If it's white, good night. Seriously, brother-in-law was up in the Arctic. They are scary creatures. From the minute they see you out in the open, they see you as meat. Edit. My first silver. Thank you. Bigly brother-in-law was cameraman with CBC. He got out of there a few years ago with all his clothes. My first gold. Thank you. Thank you, kind and handsome stranger. I promise to use my powers for good. Black is fight back. It's not recommended to start attacking a bear under really any circumstances. If you call 911, always say where the problem is first, followed by the problem. If you happen to get cut off before you can say what the problem is, at least the dispatcher has a location to send an officer to check it out and advise if more police or fire is needed. Example, operator, 911, where is your emergency? You, help, I am being stabbed, disconnect. Versus, operator, 911, where is your emergency? You, 742 Evergreen Terrace, help, I am, disconnect. Location, location, location. Sideshow Bob can stab faster than you can explain. Makes sense. Firefighter training. If there is a fire, crawl out of the building. Do not stand up to run. 1 or 2 breaths of smoke are enough to do major damage and require hospitalization. If you get out at all, it may be warm where you are crawling, but standing up can cook your skin and your lungs. The smoke at eye level can be more than 600 degrees Celsius, 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. If you can't see and don't know the room layout, crawl with your feet legs in front of you, sliding on your ass. Do not crawl face first, or you may take a dive down a staircase in the confusion. This is advisable usually only for whitewater scenarios. A side stroke is usually the most energy efficient method of swimming for a rescue if there's no danger of underwater hazards. I remember reading in a Reddit post similar to this, that if you can't do a pull-up you probably won't have the strength to pull yourself up off a ledge, and that has stuck with me ever since. In theory it's very true, but I would guess most people could if some serious adrenaline is involved. Have you seen most people? The instinct of wolves will only cause them to attack hunt you if they can intimidate you into fleeing from them. Standing your ground against a wolf pack will be terrifying, but will eventually cause them to bugger off. Tigers as well. Don't turn your eyes away from a tiger. There is a story of a boy that had to walk backwards for 3 hours back to his village being stalked by a tiger. The cost benefit of a prey animal even slightly hurting a tiger is not worth it. It could mean a death sentence in the wild. I broke eye contact by looking down with a tiger yesterday that was behind a fence 3 feet away, and he jumped at me. I looked up and he was standing straight up with his arms stretched above his head and claws on the fence. I swear to God he was at least 8 feet tall. I very nearly shat myself. Edit. Spelling. That water you're about to dive into might not be as deep as you think. Always just step in and swim down to check for depth, then jump. Always do this. My dad told me a story about a group of guys he knew from school. After graduation they all went up to someone's lake house and one guy decided to dive off the dock as soon as they got there. The water was shallow that year, and when he dove in he broke his neck and died on impact. If someone is trying to abduct you, fight back. Most abductors will just give up if they meet resistance. And whatever you do, don't let them take you to another location. You ain't taking a me to no secondary location. Street smarts. If the tide suddenly goes out unexpectedly, run like you stole it, for higher ground. I read about a 10-year-old English girl who had just learned this before going on vacation with her family to Thailand. Then the big tsunami that killed a few 100,000 came. She saw the water retreat and the other tourists walk out on the exposed seafloor. She freaked out and convinced everybody to run for higher ground. A lot of people were saved by a little girl who had paid attention in school. They later brought a lot of flowers to the teacher. Imagine how terrifying that must be, knowing that a huge unstoppable wave is traveling hundreds of kilometers per hour to your location, and most people don't listen to you, just thinking you're a stupid kid who doesn't know any better. If you are ever bitten by a bat, raccoon, fox, or skunk, go directly to the hospital. There is no cure for rabies once it is fully onset. Out of all history, only 5 people survived rabies, Meredith Palmer being one of the 5. If you're ever charged by a moose, get behind a tree. They have about a 10-inch blind spot and they'll lose you. That's what ski patrol would always say when there were an increase in moose sightings on the mountain. They'd tell you to stay out of the trees when skiing, unless a moose is running at you. Then find trees, because unless you've got a steep hill or are already up to speed, the moose is probably faster than you think. When people say to take an aspirin to help during a heart attack, chew the pill. Don't swallow it whole. It gets absorbed much quicker. Edit. Last bit. Thanks for the silver. Whoa, I wouldn't have known that. Thanks. All snakes in Victoria, Australia are venomous. Just assume all snakes are venomous and stay away. Edit. 1 letter. If a person asks you for something in the street, a light, the time, whatever, always keep the person in your eye line. So if they ask for the time, don't just look down at your watch. Raise your arm slightly so your watch is in sight. I was told this years ago at a self-defense thing at a corporate retreat type of event, and I wondered if it was ever going to be useful or just something to pad out the teacher's session. Then, a decade later, I was on the street late at night on my way home, and someone approached me and asked for the time. I did this, told him the time, and he just kinda stood there. Then he started asking some weird, clearly improvised, question about how he was looking for his friend's house, and he was sure it was on that street, and he had a yellow car similar to the one behind me. I didn't look back but just said yeah, yellow, and he pointed directly behind me. I said yeah, the yellow car. I saw it as I walked by. So, he paused for a second, looking like that meme of the woman with the equations around her head, then just yelled "Oh, duck you," and stormed off. It was only afterwards I realized that I think he wanted me to look away so he could slug me, but he wasn't prepared to attack someone that was looking right at him. I used to bicycle commute through a bad neighborhood. 99% of the time I had no issues. I had an old bicycle and didn't look like I had money. One morning though, 14 stepped into the street, forming a loose line across my path. One said "Hey man, got a light?" and I knew that it was bullshit. I didn't slow down or talk with them. I looked one of the kids directly in the eye, aimed my bicycle at him, and pedaled as hard as I could. He instinctively jumped out of the way, and the others were caught off guard so they didn't attempt to grab me. It's good you remembered that, especially in that situation. I'm glad I saw this. It makes so much sense. If you've been buried alive in a standard coffin, stay calm. If you are alive, you haven't been buried that long. Also, the dirt above you hasn't set yet. Most coffins are not built to last once buried and as a result have weak siding. So here is what you do. Pull your shirt over your head. You don't want to be swallowing dirt. Position yourself so you are as sideways in the coffin as possible with hands and feet pushing on the long sides. Push. You should be able to blow out one of the walls. Start crawling up. Do not panic. You may not find a grip immediately. Keep going until you make it out. Worst nightmare. Just reading that made me uncomfortable. Always leave your itinerary with someone. If you meet strangers, i.e., potential bad people, on the road, always let them know that you are in touch with friends and family and that they know exactly where you are. You become less attractive as a victim. Edit. Always let strangers know that you have a destination and are expected at a particular time. 2. Always let strangers know that you have a destination and are expected at a particular time. 2. This is really useful when traveling in areas where taxis tuk-tuks will try to bring you somewhere better. Just tell them you're meeting a friend and they shut up. Know how to spot a stroke. An easy way to remember is the acronym F-A-S-T. Face. Is one side of your face droopy? Can you fully smile? Arms? Can you hold your arms out straight? Speech. Are you unintentionally slurring your words? Time. Call an ambulance right away. Time is of the essence. Edit. RIP inbox. There's a few things I should add to this. Based on what some others in the medical profession have said below, the acronym is now B-E-F-A-S-T. It is adding balance and eyes. Also, in regards to time, call 911 immediately, but also try to find out when the symptoms started. If they just started, make note of the time. Otherwise, try and find out from people who were around. Finally, you do not have to have all of the above symptoms in order to be having a stroke. One or fewer is possible as well. Be Fast is just a good acronym that is easy for the public to remember. In addition to a few other people who helped add to my original post, here is one in particular that I thought was well written. Time should also be note the time the symptoms came on, as there are some medications that can help but only in a specific window. So note the time and tell the EMTs when they arrive. If you're unsure about the movement of a tornado, put a straight object such as a tree or a street light in between you and the tornado. It'll make it way easier to see which way the tornado is moving. If the tornado appears to not be moving, it's coming right at you. Edit. Usually the only reference you will have is the width. If it doesn't appear to be moving but is getting wider, it's coming towards you, at which point you want to move perpendicular to its movement. Thank you /start button for clearing that up. In my experience, the easiest way to check if the tornado is getting wider is using an object such as a light post. This is the stuff that makes the hairs in the back of my neck stand up. I have never seen a tornado, but Jesus duck, the thought of one coming straight at me is just so awesome and creepy. Or directly away from you. Either way, that's not a bet you wanna take when your prize is being able to just kinda sit here. If you have to get out of a moving car, then put one foot down and take a step. Don't just jump out. This will reduce your speed immensely. Sure, you will fall over, but at a much reduced speed. A stuntman told me this. I had to leave a moving car that was going about 40 miles per hour. I was pregnant. I had a medium-sized purse and a pillow. The man driving the car had said he was going to kill us both if he couldn't have me and was going in and out of oncoming traffic. I grabbed my bag and pillow and held the pillow across my stomach and opened the door and thought, if I go like a rag doll except my arm holding my stomach and my other arm with my purse covered my face. But everything else I tried to relax. I stepped out and let myself fall and roll. It was amazing. I ended up with just a handful of bruises and scrapes and I was fine. And my daughter is 14 now. We made it. Oh my god, that's awful. I'm so glad to hear you and your daughter are okay. Couldn't imagine that scenario if I tried. What won't kill you in Australia? The wildlife. What will kill you? Getting lost in the outback. If you're lost and out of fuel, stay with your vehicle. Move as little as possible during the day and stay in the shade. Conserve water. Rip off wing mirrors to shine at any search planes. You can drink your urine approx 1-3 times before your kidneys start to pack it in. This is absolute last resort. To be fair, the wildlife can also kill you. Plot twist. Lost in the Australian outback and a roo enters the passenger seat, points a gun at your head, and tells you to relocate. EMT here. If you're ever choking on food in a public venue, do not go to the restroom to avoid causing a scene. Almost every death I've seen from people choking are found unconscious in a bathroom stall because they were too polite to seek help. I feel like if there's any situation in which it's okay to not be polite, it's when you're choking to death. 120 people will get bowel cancer in their lifetime. You need some sort of screening starting at age 45-50 depending on your family history. Any blood in the stool needs to be checked out. Early cancers can be completely cured with keyhole surgery. You don't have to die of bowel cancer. In Australia, when you turn 50, the government starts sending you free testing kits every 2 years. If you're a pedestrian and crossing a street, if you can see the sun's reflection on the windshield of a car, there's a good chance the driver cannot see you. If your shadow points toward the car, same. If you've been carjacked and the carjacker tells you to just drive, take whatever chance you get to wreck. At minimum, you're getting emergency services involved, meaning it's more likely they'll be caught, and there's a chance you'll incapacitate or even kill the carjacker. Of course, there's also a chance that you might not survive, but if they're taking you to a second location, odds are you weren't going to come back anyway. Whoa, you made it to the end? You're a ducking beast. I'll cut you a deal. Smash like and subscribe for more curated content, bruh. It's free and that's a great price.